Inside the Huddle. I'm your host, Tom Brown, and this is brought to you by Romo Athletics and powered by the Rolla Athletic Booster Club. Man, today I am excited because we got Rolla Bulldog Wrestling legend, Nate Pulliam, and he's also a current Mizzou wrestler. So, Nate, man, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great. So you graduated in 2021, graduated with my middle son, Trey. And this is your third year at Mizzou, right?
Yep.
But you're a redshirt sophomore? Is that how they have it set up? Or
yeah, yep.
Okay. And so I was going back through and looking at things. So a 3-time state champion, right? So 3-time state champion, undefeated your sophomore, junior, and senior year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. First of all, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then your one lone loss was your freshman year in the state championship.
Correct.
So you were like 144-1 or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Okay. So again, it was kind of crazy when it was happening, but when you go back and think about that, I mean, there's only a handful of people, I mean, that have ever had 3 state championships in our state, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how many that is, but I mean, that what incredible. And tell me the story real quick. We didn't talk about this before, but Coach Houck had talked about this, that one loss, and that's why you never lost again. Is that one loss, right?
Yeah. So with that loss, that kid that beat me in the state finals that year, I'd beat 3 times previous. And going back on it now, it's just like I had to literally take a different shot. I had one setup I was taking on the kid, and all he had to do was study a video of me one time, and he timed it perfectly, and it was a 4-2 match. It was close. But because of that loss, the next couple weeks after that state tournament, I was down the dumps. My dad, he was down with me too, and we expected me to win. And I mean, every match I went into, I was always wanting to win. But after that, I was just like, I really want to get the state title. And I never want to have that feeling again. I remember walking across the mats in Mizzou Arena, and I was on the far mat, and I had to walk to the far tunnel. And I'm just walking there, and everyone's looking at me, and I wasn't the guy I expected to lose. I was supposed to win that match, and I just remember that feeling. I was like, I never want to have this again. At least when I'm in this arena and in any tournament I'm ever in. So from that day on, I just made sure to work my tail off and, never get to that spot again.
Man, that's something. I mean, again, just congratulations on all of that, and what a career at Rolla High School. And I believe you ended up with an All-American status as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, again, you're one of the few people that have done that. I mean, again, we've had, people have been to the Olympics and we've had some things, but I don't think we've had anyone that's been a 3-time, state champion. I don't believe in anything that we've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, just tremendous. And you also played golf, right?
Yes. Yep.
Now, was that all through high school or?
Yeah. So getting into golf, it was actually the Giswaldis who are in town. My best friend, Jack Giswaldi. I was younger and always hanging out with Jack, and his dad was like, you're coming to the golf course with us, because I was at their house 24/7. So they got me into it, and I just carried it into high school, and I loved it. It was something that my parents supported, but it was it was something I just wanted to do. It was outside of wrestling, and I just always wanted to play, and I was always obsessed with just trying to get better at it.
Now, do you still get out there and, hit the ball around or anything?
Yeah, I still have this obsession about it. There's these Missouri amateurs and like semi-pro events that I'm like wanting to, try to get into after college, which would be really cool, and just, continue to evolve my golf game.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm not really good at it. So I'm the guy that drives the cart. So
yeah.
But now I remember back in the day, you also played T-ball. Do you remember?
Yep.
Being on our wonderful team? And
yes.
And what I remember about you is you show up in your tank top, and you had a mohawk slicked up, the spiky mohawk, stylish mohawk, and you didn't say a whole lot, so I kept calling you the Bull. And I don't know if you ever remember that or not, but I
remember that.
So that was my first introduction to Nate, was in T-ball, nicknaming the Bull, and then boom, next thing you know, you're all grown up and you're wrestling for Mizzou. I mean, that's a good time. Any other sports that you played while you're in high school?
I played soccer quite a bit as well. Soccer was actually my first sport, and I played it. I did travel soccer with Rolla Knights. It was a really good travel program, and I carried that into high school. My sophomore year in the district, the first round of districts, I fractured my hip. After that, I kind of told myself, I really want to focus on wrestling, because at this point, this was going into sophomore year yet, so this was off my state championship loss in wrestling my freshman year. So I took that as, I really got to focus on wrestling and just kind of, I put soccer behind me and I just carried on with wrestling and then golf as well.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense with that. I'm gonna make sure I got you here. I think you might froze up. You look good on your end. It might just be on my end.
I'm frozen. I am frozen actually.
Okay. Well, let's see. Maybe I did the whole thing there. Well, I tell you what, we'll keep going. We'll see how this goes, and if not, man, we may have you kind of click out and then come back in. Okay.
Okay.
But again, magic of technical difficulties in a technical world. There you are.
Okay, perfect.
We're good. I think you're coming back on. So let's talk about what So now we got 10 wrestlers from Rolla High School. They just finished their districts. Girls were 2 weeks ago. Boys were last week. We got 10 wrestlers qualified for state. Will you be able to see some of them, or is there going to be conflict with you being out of town for your own meets?
No, I don't know if you know this or not, but recently I had labrum surgery. So I'm currently, I should be in my sling, but just sitting here, I'm fine. I'm just hanging out. But I had labrum surgery last Tuesday, and I was able to go talk to them when I was home last Thursday, and then they'll be up here I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'll be able to go watch. It won't conflict with class or anything. So I'll be there.
That's great. Yeah, and that's always a big thing. We talked about that with Coach Hauk last week about that, about the connection and bringing it back in, and the people that have been through the program, the reps and the coaches, and having those connections between the players and that have come before them and the players are going through it now, and talk about the challenges that you have. And it had to be a great experience for you coming up through the program with Coach Hauk.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I met Hauk in either my 6th or 7th grade year. I didn't know who he was, and it was kind of crazy. I was just at a summer training practice, and he came in. We started talking, and I liked him a little bit, but didn't know who he was too much. And then he started having these 6 a.m. lifts, and it was me, Tristan Barr, who's a really good wrestler from Rolla, and then Coleman Brainerd, another great wrestler from Rolla, who would show up to these lifts. And I was in 6th or 7th grade, going in one or the other. And I would bike to the high school in the mornings, go lift, bike home. And that's kind of how my relationship started with Hauk. And then from there, it was just, it evolved into him taking me to practices, going to the Olympic training center, obviously competing at state and just wrestling all around the country.
Yeah, that's again tremendous. I mean, I know our program's grown, and I know our youth program's probably at its highest numbers it's been in years. So again, it's tremendous, and it's the success of those people. You mentioned Cole and Tristan before that. We've had just a great run of those state champions and state qualifiers, and I know that's just has to do a lot of pride for you too to see that next group coming up. They all want to talk to you. They want to be part of that, and I think it's just a great program that Coach Hauk is helping to build here.
Yeah, of course.
So, what was the biggest challenge for you making that jump from high school into the college wrestling again, and not just college wrestling? I mean, Division I college wrestling. And again, Mizzou's had a great run in their wrestling program as well over the last so many years, and getting a lot of publicity too with the whole MMA activity of some of the wrestlers as well.
Yeah. Coming into college, it was really the intensity and the competition just within the room. Like in high school, I was the guy that was getting the most reps. I was typically finishing first if we did sprints or something like that. And I worked hard and that's why I did it. But coming into college, I'm around guys that had that same feeling and did the exact same thing throughout high school and were possibly better. So adjusting to that and being able to just be around that environment instead of like taking it as a negative, like meaning like I would finish, sometimes last in some of our sprints, or we would have live days and I would just get my butt whooped. I mean, every single day, and I was on bottom getting rode out. Like that was a really big challenge for me, but taking that as a good thing and like leading it into growth into where I am now. I mean, it's been the biggest challenge for me. And I really do appreciate like going through that and now looking back on it.
Okay. So let's talk about that real quick. And because that's real interesting, because that is one of the hallmarks of is that growth mindset. And I know that's something that Coach Hauk's been big on trying to push for athletes as well. But like you said, it is the most difficult thing that happens for the kid coming out of a high school where they've had so much success. And now you're up there competing against people that are all the same. That's and again, having that mindset to really go after it. I mean, that's just, did you expect it to be that way, or were you kind of surprised?
Talking to guys that I knew going into college, I expected it. I didn't necessarily know what to expect though. So I had a bit of a rude awakening when it, came true. And because of that, I really had to just kick myself in gear. The first, I think, 2 weeks of training, I came into a weights. It was like a Friday morning, and weights was only at 8 o'clock. It wasn't like super early. It was manageable. And I wake up. It's like 7:55, and I have to book it to the Hearns. I'm only like 5 minutes away from the Hearns. Run up the stairs, and it's like 8:02, and I just remember the look on my coach. He pointed at the door, and he said, "Get on the line." And I had to do sprints for. It wasn't a super long time, but it was just understanding the fact that I can't ever let that happen. And since then, never been late, not even close to being late. And I just think being able to adjust to that mindset of, one, being on time, being disciplined, and taking it very seriously each and every day is what's definitely propelled me to have success and continue to get better.
Great, man. That's impressive. Again, especially for a young man. Again, I mean, you're 21 now, and I assume it's about that age. But yeah, that's a big challenge, and to accept it and they know it, and then build on that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So your wrestling weight, right? So you wrestled like I went back and looked, like 113, and then 132, 145, 152. Where are you wrestling at now?
In college, I'm at 149.
Okay. And how is that for you to maintain weight wise? Is it a challenge?
When I do it the proper way, it's not bad at all. So when we start our preseason, which is at the end of August, we start our weight descent. And typically coming into the weight descent, I try to be at about 165, which is 16 pounds over. And it sounds like a lot, but when you do it the right way, it's all right. And then throughout the season, I maintain anywhere from about 156 to 158, which is 7 to 9 over. And what that looks like is on a Monday morning, if I compete on a Saturday, I make a descent of anywhere from 7 to 9 pounds. And I do it throughout workouts. And at practice, for me, I lose anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds just sweating it off. And that's in a t-shirt and shorts, not in the full sweats. And then by the last day, I'm pretty much down to weight or underweight, so I can eat dinner and then get ready for competition on Saturday.
Okay. And again, how much different is that for you? I assume, again, seeing these programs and the amount of, all the medical staff, the physical trainers they have, the people that's their profession, and it is nonstop, I'm sure, working with you, teaching you, coaching you, guiding you. And do you guys all eat together at the same sports cafeteria thing?
Yeah, so we have what's called the Massey Mizzou Athletic Training Center, and in there we have our athletic dining hall. We have a study/academic area, a big weight room for most of the sports besides football and basketball, I'm pretty sure, and then a really big sports medicine department. And they kind of keep us contained in there just for so we're all around each other as athletes and specifically as wrestlers as well.
Okay. Great. So, if you get a cheat night, what are you eating? What's your go-to food?
If it's like easy fast food, I'm typically going Taco Bell. Something a little bit better, I'll go and get probably some, honestly, like Pancheros. I would say a good burrito.
Yeah, I like Pancheros, man.
Yeah, pretty good.
So, what's your favorite memory from high school?
Favorite memory, I've said this in an interview before through the newspaper, and this was with Andre Ridenhour. It was, I think, his junior year or sophomore year. He'd been having a pretty good season, and I think it really dawned on him that he can become a state placer. And he told me, he's like, what do I have to do to get to that point? And I said, you just listen to me, you work with me, I'll get you there. And I told him I'd make him a state placer, and he at the time just wanted to make it 2-state. So what I would do is, whether I practiced with him that day or not, it was every day after practice, we would go for 5 to 10 minutes and just work on a specific skill. If, say, we were on our feet a lot that day, we would go top and bottom, work that, and vice versa for every other day. And then by districts, he did really well in districts, made it to state. He was super excited. And then once he got to state, we carried that same mentality training from districts to state. And then he was able to place, I'm pretty sure, 5th place at state. And it was just an awesome moment getting to share that with him and just see the growth he had in like such a short period of time as well.
So kind of interesting. So on another note, I saw where, again, you've been doing a lot of training also, right, for other kids or youth kids, programs in the off season. Pulliam trained, right?
Yeah.
So is that something that just really clicked for you? Is providing that, helping people out, doing part of it, and sharing your knowledge?
Yeah, and this was a trait taught to me when I was really young. I started at what was called Pulliam Wrestling Academy, and he was very specific on how he taught us, and I was able to apply that in each of my other academies I went to and just running stuff myself. And it was just kind of taking pride in what I was showing. And I like to show what I like to do, but at the same point in time, like seeing from other individuals and like Andre specifically, like he hit certain moves, and I had to make sure when he was training that he was able to do that, and I didn't necessarily interfere with what I like to do versus what he wanted to do.
Right.
So I guess I really just taken pride in that, and being able to apply that to each different individual and just groups and everybody that I help coach.
That's great. Yeah, I love it. Of course, again, that's something I've always loved to do is provide, helping out, coaching, guiding people. And yeah, when you can do it at a young age, that's man, such an impact. And again, for helping the people that you're wrestling with, and then again, the future ones coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great to see. What was your favorite class in high school?
Favorite class was anatomy and physiology. Definitely a really hard class, but I had Dr. Peterson, and he was just an amazing teacher. I created a great relationship with him. He actually was one of our assistant coaches at the time when I was in high school as well, and he grew a love for wrestling, but specifically like on the academic side, the way he taught and just really cared, and especially for all of us students, it was something that I loved, and it was a class I always wanted to go to. And I had many friends in there, and we took our studying seriously, and he took his teaching very seriously.
That's great. Yeah, that's good. So what was your greatest lesson that you took away from high school, that you had in high school? You got that lesson, whatever it is, and you still use it today. You take that with you to get day. It doesn't have to be the classroom. It could be anything you done. What's that one thing that you've taken away that when you're in high school was something you learned and you still are practicing that today?
One thing I always think about is like how far I've come. So especially when I'm in a rut and it feels like life's just really hard, I think about where I was maybe a year ago or 5 years ago. And like going into high school, I didn't know I was going to wrestle in college. And I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, now I'm on the D1 stage. I've started, I beat ranked guys, I'm accomplishing goals that I set for myself this year and when I was younger, and just kind of always remembering that, kind of like humbling myself, going back to, back in the day and just remembering where I did come from.
So right now, now again, you're in your third year at college. What degree are you pursuing?
Currently, I'm pursuing health science with a pre-professional emphasis, and I will actually graduate in the fall of 24 and then start a master's in science and business in the spring of 25.
Nice. So afterwards, then what's your plan to do with all that then?
I'm trying to get an internship set up for this summer through medical sales. I really want to work with a company called Elite Orthopedics. They're based out of St. Louis, and they also have a branch here in Columbia. But really, I would like to be in medical sales, but medicine has always been what I've been interested in, medicine and health. So I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, but I've been really leaning towards medical sales.
Okay, yeah, great career. Lot going on there. Again, allow you to do some things also on the side, keep you connected into the sports world as well with some of that when you choose that with the orthopedic side. Definitely. So what's going to be, so after that, you, like you said, you came back last week and was able to talk to the Bulldog program and all the wrestlers. Now, at that point, you still have, so the girls were done with their districts, but again, they're preparing for state. The boys are heading into districts. And then, so coach brings you in, and what's that like? What do you do look like when it comes back? And here's these kids, some of them you wrestled with, right? Some would have been, no, that would have been a long time ago, right?
I think
seniors.
The seniors, yeah, the seniors I was with when they were freshmen when I was a senior.
Okay, yeah, so you would have had some.
I knew as well.
Yeah, so what to talk about that? What's that like? Again, because like we said last week, we talked to Coach Houck about the reps and the people coming back in, and he makes sure there's the walls, there's the records that are up there. What was your advice? What'd you talk to him about?
Well, first off, I will say going in, it was really awesome seeing the new gym, walking in, going towards the wrestling room, just seeing kind of everything change a little bit since I've been in high school. That was awesome. Just as I was going to the room, but once I was in there, it was cool and very humbling. It's where I started out. Not a lot has changed, but there are changes. And just being around guys and kids that I knew, like a lot of those guys I knew when they were younger and in youth, and being able to talk to them about my experiences and just kind of how I felt about things and trying to, lead them the best way I can. It was awesome. I told them specifically, I said, this could be your last shot. I was like, you're going into districts, and right now your record's 0-0. Don't think about it. You've had X amount of wins or X amount of losses. You're 0-0 and you're trying to go to state. And for some of you guys, it could be your last match. And for some of you guys, you're going to make it to state. But whatever you do, you got to go out there and just give it your all no matter what. And I think really telling them that and like having them truly believe that, it's just something that I wanted to share because I was always told that, like, you never know what's going to happen. Injury can occur. You might lose and get upset. And you never know what could happen at districts or at state.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. And again, because that's the heartbreaking part of it is, Coach Houck and I are talking. One of the beauties beautiful things about wrestling is it is an individual event, an individual competition, but there is such a camaraderie and teamwork that goes into moving the entire team forward. And you have all those backers there while you're wrestling, your cheering section right down there. I know it's heartbreaking when that loss happens. But again, it's so thrilling. I know when that individual accomplishment happens and your team's there with you to celebrate with you.
Yes.
Yeah, when Coach Houck mentioned that one of the things they're doing, I don't know if they did this when you wrestled, but they allow the wrestler to choose the voice in their corner, right? They allow you to choose who's going to be the one coaching that corner. Is that something they did when you wrestled?
Yeah, they did that when I wrestled. I never made it a big deal. It didn't really bother me. But one thing that I did voice to my coaches when I was in that situation, I made sure they knew like cues I needed to hear when I was wrestling, like maybe like reset, so if we went out of bounds, there was times where I'd reset, pull up my socks, adjust my headgear, get ready to go. Maybe it was like deep breaths. Maybe it was hands and feet. Hands and feet was a big one for me, just telling me to move and open up. But whatever coach was in my corner, I just made sure that they knew that. So to me, it didn't matter who was in my corner as long as they understood what I expected out of them when I needed something, pretty much.
That's great that you're able to communicate that too, because again, a lot of young people have a hard time, right? They have a hard time saying something to their coach or bringing up what they view. But in your case, you were saying, no, hey, this is what I need. This is what's going to drive me and connect with me. Yes. And again, a lot of times it's the time for adjustments aren't necessarily while the match is going on, right? And
yeah.
And you don't need that extra thing in your ear when you're trying to focus on what's at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the reps beforehand, right? All the practice beforehand is what's getting you to that event, and that's what you're kind of counting on.
Exactly.
So again, looking back, like we talked about the importance of being a role model and the relationships that you have. Now let's talk about the youth program. If you got those kids that are watching and they want to be that wrestler, right? They want to be Nate Pulliam. That's their dream. That's their goal. What are you going to tell those kids? What's one piece of advice you're going to shout out to the kids that aren't necessarily in high school yet, but they're working their way up through the program?
I'm going to tell them that me specifically, I started from, the bottom. When I started wrestling, I got pinned like almost every match. It was the worst thing ever. I cried and I made the biggest deal about it. And you can ask my parents about it. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. But showing up, being consistent, and working towards something each and every day is what makes you better. You're not like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not going to climb the top of the ladder in one climb. You have to go each step. So I think, especially with younger kids, like do what you can, control what you can, make sure you show up each and every day. So whether that's going to practice 3 times a week or going to practice 4 times, whatever it is for you in your case, you just got to make it the most when you're there. And another thing that I always tell the little kids is make sure you're getting practicing in the summers. In that off season, you have to be doing extra because that's what sets you apart. I'm not saying you have to overdo it because everyone still needs to be a kid and enjoy their life. But at the same point in time, if you do want to be good, especially at any sport, you have to do the extras in the times where others aren't. So for me, that's exactly what I would say to them.
That's great advice. It's again, and it's something with our instant gratification society. It's such a difficult challenge for a lot of kids today, and the parents too, right? Yeah. They're all wanting that. They don't realize what it really takes on that time, that effort, and it's not for everyone. And that's something I know I've had to talk to parents about. Is a lot of kids want it, but a lot of kids aren't willing to do it. Okay. Yeah. That's the big thing. And sometimes it's the parents that want it more than the kids. And if that's the case, you can push your kid, but really you want to encourage your kid and let them find their pathway for it.
Yep.
So, okay. One final question. What is your favorite Waffle House breakfast at Christmas?
Waffle House, hands down, every time I'm getting the All-Star Special. When I get that, I always do scrambled eggs, extra crispy hash browns, bacon, white toast, and a plain waffle. I see you guys every time, so that's awesome that you asked that. But yeah, that's my go-to order. I have to go with the biggest one just because it's Christmas. You got to celebrate.
That's great. I am the scattered all the way, chili on top, leave off the gravy. I like gravy. You got to watch it. I'm going to watch my weight. I'm going to put the gravy on there with everything else. No, yes, that's great. That's always kind of cool. I know it's your guys' little tradition too, is head over to Waffle House on Christmas morning and then head about the day. So that's kind of fun. Well, Nate, hey, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. Man, wish you success on the recovery on the shoulder, and cheer on the Bulldogs at state this week, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Well, for everyone, for Nate Pulliam, I'm Tom Brown, and thank you for joining us on another Inside the Huddle. Thanks, everyone.